You said you're considering C1 Nilou? Yeah, it's gonna depend on Nefer. Because I want to go for the Llama package on main. And if Nefer is reliant on Nilou, then in order to get the Llama package, I'm gonna need to get Nilou. And then if I'm getting Nilou, I might as well get her C1 from the selector. Will you include Nilou C1 in free to play Calcs now? Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Would you ever get her C2? No. I'd gladly select it from a selector, but I would never spend wishes to get it. Well, her range extending by 6 seconds adds something to Calcs. Her Hydro Obligation has a 2-second ICD, so 6 more seconds is 3 more apps. That's 3 more blooms. Your blooms are hitting for like 30-something K. That's like 100k more DPR. In single target, 200k more DPR in AoE. Which is 5 to 10k DPS. Not bad, honestly. Not great, but like, not bad either. Like, it's honestly acceptable. Will the rotation be over by then? No, not really. At the end of the day, you have to understand, this is especially the case in Bloom teams, not just Nilou teams, like Hydro Bloom teams too, just Bloom reaction teams. If you use an ability 5 seconds after starting your rotation, and the ability lasts for 20 seconds, and your rotations are 20 seconds. It'll be active from 5 seconds into your rotation until the end of your first rotation, but it will also be active for the first 5 seconds of your next rotation. As long as your uptime doesn't exceed your cooldown, it will be an uptime increase. And that's something you notice a lot in double Hydro Hyperbloom teams, where if you look at calcs or sims for first rotation Hyperbloom, it looks a lot worse. Because your first 5 seconds is just deploying all your abilities. You don't really deal damage until all of your abilities are deployed. Right? Because the Hydro doesn't do damage by itself, the Dendro doesn't do damage by itself, the Electro doesn't do damage by itself. You only start dealing damage when you apply Electro to a seed you generated from applying Dendro and Hydro. So it forces you to do 3 full swaps before the enemy takes any real damage. But because those abilities last for longer than your rotation does, on the second rotation, those 3 full swaps happen while your abilities are still deployed, so they do damage. But the first rotation, it doesn't do damage. You know how the second part of Nilou passive works? Like, is it 65 damage bonus or direct 1.65 increases for skill damage? Wait, what do you mean? Which passive? Which passive are we talking about right now? Oh, C1. I see. Oh no, it's just 65 damage percent. It's dog shit. Why is C1 Baizhu good? Baizhu is not a character that does damage, really. So having to build more ER for him is generally not that big of a problem. However, he's an 80 cost burst. And the reality is that for 80 cost bursts, it actually is possible to end up in a situation where even if you build a fuck ton of ER, it's not enough to get your burst back. For Baizhu specifically, who has a bunch of teams where he wants to skill into swap, and he doesn't battery his particles into himself, it's even more the case. So being able to front load 2 skills by swapping into him once every 20 seconds just allows him a lot more flexibility in rotations and allows him to significantly lower his ER requirements in teams that can't afford to swap back to him. The biggest problem is that with Llama coming out, Baiju's best team by far is gonna be Nilou teams, and Nilou teams can afford to swap into him whenever. The nice thing, though, is that the charges still help, because without the C1, you swap into him, if his skill is up, it means that you did not use it off cooldown, right? And if his skill is not up, you don't want to stay into him until it is, because you're better off rotating through your other characters. So unless you swap into him right as the skill cooldown expires, in practice, you'll end up using his skill every like 12, 13, 14, 15 seconds, despite his cooldown being 10. Which also helps ER requirements, even in those teams. It also helps front load healing better if you feel like you're about to die, which is very possible in Nilou teams. But honestly, the main reason why I value Baiju's C1 over a lot of the other characters' cons is because he's a support. How much does Flins lose if you use ER Sands instead of attack, considering you use a big burst in the ER Sands case? It heavily depends. But in teams where you use no big burst at 125 ER versus big burst every 3 rotations at 175 ER, the DPS difference between the two is so small that on some weapons it's an upgrade and on some weapons it's a downgrade. Is Shovel going to be good for Ineffa and Flins teams? Yesn't. It's one of your many, many options for Ineffa. Is Emblem Flins cooked or strat? It is maybe the worst possible 5-star artifact set you can give him. Is there any set that would be worse? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to find... Let's rack our brains together. Let's try to think of a set that would be worse. Shimenawa's? Yeah, I suppose Shimenawa's consuming energy would make it worse. Galleries? I mean, it would basically be the same, right? Because all Emblem does for Flins is it buffs this number, which you just outright don't use in most teams, and even when you do use it, it's like 2% of your DPS. Is Berserker better than Emblem? Probably not. 4-star artifact sets are just so much worse than 5-star artifact sets for stats. $20% ER is more than 0 value from VV. I mean, yes and no. But if I'm being, like, completely and fully honest with you, at least when you're fighting an animal hypostasis, VV on Flins is helpful. But, like, that's the competition here, okay? Like, Emblem is competing with VV. So, no, it's not good. Don't do it. How do you want Nefer's kit to be? That's a good question. But I don't know. Because, first, I think that Nefer's kit should make you want to use Tappy instead of Holdy on Llama, right? I think Nefer's kit should be a way to use Verdundu that is more efficient than using it on Llama with her Holdy. But I don't really know what I'd want to see outside of that. Yeah, like, C2 Nahida is usable in those teams, it's just that it's a little power crept. Like, what can I compare it to? It's a way you can use your C2 Nahida, but Nahida's position in the team is not very stable. Like Llama and then not Nefer is a good choice. We don't know yet. We don't know what Nefer does. But also, if you're just asking, like, how's Llama in a vacuum looking right now? She's looking good, but if Nefer's looking great and a lot better, and if content is balanced around you having it, then, well, it's not gonna be good then, right? Like, we don't know. How broken would Bennett be if he had nighsoul? I mean, he'd be better, but I think a lot of people overestimate Bennett's ability to reliably proc scrolls in teams that matter. Like, it wouldn't do anything to Moiga teams because you already have a procer. Same for Arlecchino teams. It wouldn't really help him in Veresa teams. Could help him in some Chaska teams, but not all of them. Be nice for Kanich, I guess. But only if you're using Bennett and Neonson at the same time. Because otherwise, he's not getting a proc after the first rotation. Same as Maoika. But, like, what are the other strong attack scaling carries that use Bennett? Arlecchino. Yeah, but with Arlecchino, generally you either already have a trigger for it, or wouldn't be able to get it reliably anyways. I guess it would be nice for Or like, you know, Bennett Chevreuse Fischl, maybe? But it would still be a little sus for Bennett to proc it, and you'd probably have to either add a swap to Bennett in the middle of your rotation, or lose this snapshot on Fischl, both of which would be kind of annoying.